Welcome back, guys. This is your boy Isma, and coming back to you with another Try Hack Me challenge project that I am working on. I'm currently working on the passive reconnaissance, and we'll be learning about the essential tools for passive reconnaissance, such as whos, ns lookup, and dig. Task 1 Introduction. Welcome to the first room of the Network Security module. This module covers passive reconnaissance, active reconnaissance, Nmap, live host discovery, Nmap basic port scans, Nmap advanced port scans, Nmap post port scans, 7 protocol and servers, 8 protocols and servers 2, and 9 network security challenge. In this room, after we define passive reconnaissance and active reconnaissance, we focus on essential tools related to passive reconnaissance. We will learn 3 command line tools: whos to query whos servers, ns lookup to query DNS servers, dig to query DNS servers. We use whos to query whos records, while we use ns lookup and dig to query DNS databack records. These are all publicly available records and hence do not alert the target. We will also learn the usage of 2 online services, DNSD Dumpster and Shadone.ao. These 2 online services allows us to collect information about our target without directly connecting to it. Prerequisites. This room requires basic knowledge along with basic familiarity with command line, the module network fundamentals, and Linux fundamentals, provided the required knowledge if necessary. Important notice. Please note that if you are not subscribed to the attack box, you won't have internet access, so you will need to use the VPN to complete the questions that require the internet access. And for the answer to the question below, there is no answer needed. So go ahead and click that and you are done. Moving on to task 2, passive versus active recon. This room expects the user to have a working knowledge of computer networks. If you'd like to brush up on this topic, you are encouraged to study the network fundamentals module first. Before the dawn of computer systems and networks, in the art of war, Sun Tzu taught, if you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. If you are playing the role of an attacker, you need to gather information about your target systems. If you are playing the role of a defender, you need to know what your adversary will discover about your systems and networks. Reconnaissance. Recon can be defined as a preliminary survey to gather information about a target. It is the first step in the unified kill chain to gain an initial foothold on a system. We divide reconnaissance into 1. Passive reconnaissance, and 2. Active reconnaissance. In passive reconnaissance, you rely on publicly available knowledge. It is the knowledge that you can access from publicly available resources without directly engaging with the target. Think of it like you are looking at the target territory from afar without stepping foot on that territory. Passive reconnaissance activities include many activities. For instance, looking up DNS records of a domain from a public DNS server, checking job ads related to the target website, reading news articles about the target's company. Active reconnaissance, on the other hand, cannot be achieved so discreetly. It requires discrete engagement with the target. Think of it like you check the locks on the doors and windows, among other potential entry points. Example of active reconnaissance activities include connecting to one of the company's servers, such as HTTP, FTP, and SMTP. Calling the company in an attempt to get information, social engineering. Entering company premises pretending to be a repairman. Considering the invasive nature of active reconnaissance, one can quickly get into legal trouble unless one obtains proper legal authorizations. Excuse me. Now moving on to the questions below. You visit the Facebook page of the target company, hoping to get some of their employee names. What kind of reconnaissance activity is this? A for active, P for passive. And that is P. Moving on to the next one. You ping the IP address of the company web server to check if ICMP traffic is blocked. What kind of reconnaissance activity is this? A for active, P for passive. And that is A for active. Moving on. You happen to meet the IT administrator of the target company at a party. You try to use social engineering to get more information about their systems and networking infrastructure. What kind of reconnaissance activity is this? A for active, P for passive, and it is A. And that concludes this section. Furthermore, now moving to task 3, Whois. Whois is a request and response protocol that follows the RFC 3912 specification. A Whois server listens on TCP port 43 for incoming requests. The domain register is responsible for maintaining Whois records for the domain name. It is leasing the Whois server replies with various information related to the domain requested of a particular interest we can learn. Register. Via which register was the domain name registered? Contact info of registrant. Name, organization, address, phone, among other things, unless made hidden via a privacy service. Creation, update, and expiration dates. When was the domain name first registered? When was it last updated? And when does it need to be renewed? Name server. Which server to ask to resolve the domain name? To get this information, we need to use a Whois client or an online service. Many online services provide Whois information. However, it is generally faster and more convenient to use your local Whois client. Using the attack box or your local Linux machine, such as Parrot or Kali, you can easily access Whois client on the terminal. The syntax is Whois domain, where domain is the domain but which you are trying to get more information. Consider the following example executing. So we're going to try Whois tryhackme.com. We're going to hit enter. And we just got a whole lot of information that should match up to what we're reading right here on our left side of the screen. Pretty much spot on everything that's on there. We can see plenty of information. We will inspect them in order displayed. First, we notice that we were redirected to whoisnamecheap.com to get our information. In this case, and at the time being, Namecheap.com is maintaining the Whois record for this domain name. Furthermore, we can see their creation date alongside with the last update and expiration date. So as you can tell, it's talking about this right here, Whois Namecheap, and last update right here. Next, we obtain information about the register and registrant. We can find the registrant name and contact information unless they are using some privacy service. Although not displayed above, we get the admin and tech contacts for this domain. Finally, we see the domain name servers that we should query if we have a DNS records to look up. The information collected can be inspected to find new attacks surfaces such as social engineering or technical attacks. For instance, depending on the scope of the penetration test, you might consider an attack against the email server of the admin user or the DNS server. Assuming they are owned by your client and fall within the scope of the penetration test. It is important to note that due to the automated tools of using Whois queries to harvest email address, many Whois servers take measures against this. They might reduce email addresses, for instance. Moreover, many registrants subscribe to the privacy service to avoid their email address being harvested by spammers and keep their information private. On the attack box, open the terminal and run the Whois tryhackme.com command to get information you need to answer the following questions. So we're going to move forward. When was tryhackme registered? And that's this date right here. 2018 0705, which is this right here. What is the register of tryhackme.com? And it is this right here, namecheap.com. Which company is tryhackme using for name servers? And it's actually right here, cloudflare.com. And that concludes this section. Moving on to task 4, NSLOOKUP and dig. In the previous task, we used the Whois protocol to get various information about the domain name we were looking up. In a particular, we are able to get the DNS server from the registrar. Find the IP address of a domain name using NSLOOKUP, which stands for Name Server Lookup. You need to issue the command NSLOOKUP domain name. For example, NSLOOKUP tryhackme.com. Or more generally, you can use NSLOOKUP options domain name server. These three main parameters are: options contains the query type as shown in the table below. For instance, you can use A for IPv4 addresses and AA for IPv6 addresses. Domain name is the domain name you are looking up. Server is the DNS server that you want to query. You can choose any local or public DNS servers to query. Cloudflare offers 1.1.1.1 and 1.0.0.1. Google offers 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. And Quad 9 offers 9.9.9.9 and 149.112.112.112. There are many more public DNS servers that you can choose from. If you want to alternatively use your ISP DNS servers, and here in this graph it shows you the query types and the results for which ones they belong to. Now, for instance, we're gonna check this one out. This is the tryhackme one that is showing us to use. So for instance, NSLOOKUPs minus type equals a tryhackme.com. As it is case insensitive, can be used to return all IPv4 addresses used by tryhackme.com. The A and AAA records used to return IPv4 and IPv6 addresses, respectively. This lookup is helpful to know from a penetration testing perspective. In the example above, we started with one domain name and we obtained 3 IPv4 addresses. Each of these IP addresses can be further checked for insecurities, assuming they lie within the scope of the penetration test. Let's say you want to learn about the email server and configuration for a particular domain. You can issue the NS lookup mx.tryhackme.com. Here's an example. So here basically is how we look for the email that what we're attacking, what type of email that they are using. So we'll check which email TryHackMe is using. And as you could see, it's a Google mail. It's what's coming up. We can see that tryhackme.com's current email configuration uses Google. Since MX is looking for the mail exchange server, we notice that when a mail server tries to deliver email at tryhackme.com, it will try to connect to ASPMX.1google.com, which has ordered 1 if it's busy or unavailable. The mail server will attempt to connect to the next in order mail exchange server, alt1.aspmx.1.google.com or alt2.aspmx.1.google.com. Google provides the listed mail servers, therefore we should not expect the mail servers to be running a vulnerable server version. However, in other cases, we might find mail servers that are not adequately secure or patched. Such pieces of information might prove valuable as you contain the passive reconnaissance of your target. You can repeat similar queries for other domain names and try different types, such as negative type equals text. Who knows what kind of information you might discover along your way. For more advanced DNS queries and additional functionalities, you can use DIG, the acronym for Domain Information Grouper. If you're curious, let's use DIG to look up the MX records and compare them to NSLOOKUP. We can use DIG domain name to specify records. We would use DIG domain name type. Optionally, we can select the server we want to query using DIG add server domain name type. Server is the DNS server that you want to query. Domain name you are looking up. Type contains the DNS records type as shown in the table provided earlier. A quick comparison between the output of NSLOOKUP and DIG shows that DIG return more information, such as the TITL, time to live. By default, if you want to query 1.1.1.1 DNS servers, you can execute dig at 1.1.1.1 tryhackme.com mx. Using the attack box, open the terminal and use NSLOOKUP or dig command to get information you need for the following question. So for the answer below, check the text records of thmlabs.com. What is the flag there? So we're going to use a dig command. Sorry about that, that's my dog. So we're going to use dig, if we could actually type there. Dig th And I don't quite see anything, so we'll go ahead and try it again. So I will do dig. So let's try this now. TX. Oh, sorry about that. It's a TXT record, sorry. Here you go. And that's how you do this part of this section. Moving on to task 5, DNS dumpster. DNS lookup tools such as NSLookup and dig cannot find subdomains on their own. The domain you are inspecting might include a different subdomain that can reveal much information about the target. For instance, if tryhackme.com has the subdomains wiki.tryhackme.com and webmail.tryhackme.com, you want to learn more about these two as they can hold a trove of information about your target. There is a possibility that one of these subdomains has been set up and is not updated regularly. Lack of proper regular updates usually leads to vulnerable services. But how can we know that such subdomains exist? We can consider using multiple search engines to compile a list of publicly known subdomains. One search engine won't be enough. Moreover, we should expect to go through at least tens of results to find interesting data. After all, you are looking for subdomains that are not explicitly advertised, and hence it is not necessary to make it to the first page of search results. Another approach to discover such subdomains would be to rely on brute forcing queries to find which subdomains have DNS records. To avoid such a time-consuming search, one can use an online service that offers detailed answers to DNS queries, such as DNS dumpsters. If we search DNS dumpster for tryhackme.com, we will discover the subdomains blog.tryhackme.com, which a typical DNS query cannot provide. In addition, DNS dumpster will return the collected DNS information in easy-to-read tables and graphs. DNS dumpster will also provide any collected information about listening servers. We will search for tryhackme.com on the DNS dumpster. To give you a glimpse of the expected output, among the results we got a list of DNS servers for the domain we are looking up. DNS dumpster also resolved the domain names to IP addresses and even tried to geolocate them. We can also see the MX records. DNS dumpster resolved all 5-mail exchange server to their respective IP address and provided more information about the owner and location. Finally, we can see text records. Practically a single query was enough to retrieve all this information. Just showing you what the example of what it's talking about shows. DNS dumpster will also represent the collected information graphically. DNS dumpster displayed the data from the table earlier as a graph. You can see DNS and MX branching to their respective servers and also showing the IP addresses. Show you a little bit of what it's talking about, the branching. Go ahead and zoom out of this one. There is currently a beta feature that allows you to export the graph. As well, you can manipulate the graph and move blocks around if you need. Show you what it's talking about. Use a web browser on the attack box or your system to answer the following questions. Look up Try Hack Me on DNS Dumpster. What is one interesting subdomain that you would discover in additional to www and blog? And the answer is remote. And you're ready to move to the next section. 6. Shadowne.io. Sorry about that. When you are tasked to run a penetration test against a specific target, as part of the passive reconnaissance phase, a service like Shadowne.io, sorry about that, can be helpful to learn various pieces of information about the client's network without actively connecting to it. Furthermore, on the defensive side, you can use different services from Shadowne.io to learn about connected and exposed devices belonging to your organization. Shadowne.io tries to connect to every device reachable online to build search engine of connected things. In contrast, sorry about that. In contrast with a search engine for web pages, that once it gets responsible, it collects all information related to services and saves it in the database to make it searchable. Consider the save record of one of tryhackme.com servers. Here's the screenshot that it is referring to. This record shows a web server. However, as mentioned already, Shadowne.io collects information related to any device it can find connected online. Searching for tryhackme.com on Shadowne.io will display at least the record shown in the screenshot above. Via this Shadowne.io search results, we can learn several things related to our search, such as IP address, hosting company, geographic location, server type, and version. You may also try searching for the IP address you have obtained from the DNS lookups. These are, of course, more subject to change on their help page. You can learn about all the search options available at Shadowne.io, and you're encouraged to join TryHackMe. Shadowne.io. It would be best to visit Shadowne.io to answer the following questions. However, note that you can find answers on Shadowne.io without needing a premium account. So now we're going to be moving to the questions below. According to Shadowne.io, what is the second country in the world in terms of number of publicly accessible Apache servers? So I already have Shadowne opened up on my attack box. All you got to do is copy paste accessible Apache servers into the search bar, and you will see what pulls up. Now I'm gonna wait for it to load. So as you can see, the second country is Germany. So moving on to the second question. Based on Shadone.io, what is the third most common port used for Apache? So all you got to do to figure this answer is copy paste Apache into the search engine. So copy paste. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Paste that on there. So as you can see, I've reached my daily use limit. So I'm gonna just check this out real quick. But for the third one, based on Shadone.io, what is the third most common port used for this? All you would have to do is control paste it, and then go to the third port that it lists, and it should be these. So that's pretty much it for this chapter. Moving on to task 7, summary. In this room, we focus on passive reconnaissance. In particular, we covered command line tools, whois, ns lookup, and dig. We also discussed 2 publicly available services, DNS Dumpster and Shadone.io. The power of such tools is that you can collect information about your target without directly connecting to them. Moreover, the trove of information you may find using such tools can be massive once you master the search options and get used to reading the results. So right here is showing you the purpose lookup whois record. It's showing you a bunch of examples. So I'll just let you pause the screen here and go through them. I'm not going to go over them. Moving on. Learn more about DNS at DNS in detail. For the final answer to the question below, it just says make sure you know all the points discussed in this room, especially syntax for the command line tools. Just press complete, and we have successfully finished this room.